My mother wasn't the type to go against the grain or to stand out.
These students weren't seasoned activists, but they were very disgruntled about the segregation situation and civil rights activities.
My dad made it plain I wasn't to associate with him.
These young girls took a stand against segregation.
In the midst of World War,
I do not think that they realized what a profound impact it would have all these years later. But it was something that she believed in, and I'm so proud of her for doing that.
The Jim Crow laws of Virginia affected every aspect of the life of a Black citizen in the state.
segregation in Washington, D.C. looked like very few public accommodations for people of African descent.
So if they rode a bus, they had to sit in the back.
There were very few public places to eat.
Almost every restaurant was segregated, and they could take out food, but they couldn't sit.
Or go to the movies.
Hotels and theaters.
The special section far away from the white theater goers. They weren't allowed to go to school with white students. And in some areas, it was enforced very violently.
My name is Stelline Boyd Curtis, and I am the daughter of Ruby O'Hara Boyd. And you know the thing, my mother was a kind woman and everybody loved her. But I don't really think they realized how historical their stand was.
The land that's now known as Meadowlark Botanical Gardens used to be just known as the farm. Most people walk through here and have no idea what happened. This isn't just a garden. This is where the story began.
There were 8 young co-eds from Howard University who joined.
Karen Ware's farm for a picnic in May of 1944.
She taught constitutional history. She also taught a class called The History of Caste and Class in the United States.
Every year, Carolyn Ware invited her students out at the end of the school year. Early evening at the end of the picnic, 8 of the students were driven by Carolyn Ware to a bus stop near Vienna so they could get a bus ride back to Howard University.
Angela Jones gets on the bus and goes directly to the back of the bus. But Ruby O'Hara gets on second and immediately sits behind the driver.
It just really amazes me. My parents raised 3 girls, and any one of us would have sat in the front seat. We said, hey. But my mom, it was a very big move for her.
Angela Jones turns around at the back of the bus and sees what's going on. She joins the 7 young ladies at the front, and the protest begins.
The driver didn't notice that they had sat behind him until he was ready to pull away. And when he saw them, he told them to move to the back of the bus, which was the Jim Crow law at the time in Virginia. Black riders had to sit all the way in the back.
One of them responded by saying, well, we're operating under interstate law, which says that we can sit anywhere. And the bus driver responded, this is Virginia, you're gonna have to move to the back of the bus. And they chose to ignore what the driver said and sit at the front of the bus.
So he got off the bus and went to a phone and called the police department.
The 8 young ladies confer and decide that only the upperclassmen would agree to be arrested. And the 4 underclassmen, meaning the 3 freshmen and the 1 sophomore, would remain on the bus, in the back of the bus, ride back to campus and notify the proper authorities.
The police arrived. They got on the bus swinging their billy clubs, and they were taken to the Fairfax County Jail, booked, and placed in cells. Carolyn Ware came to bail them out, and she put her farm up as part of the bail security.
Men and women of these colleges over the nation.
This happened before Rosa Parks.
Taking their places in our war effort.
This is really the beginning of the desegregation of the bus situation in the United States.
The younger students get back to campus and they inform Susie Elliott, who is the Dean of Women. So she immediately calls what really is their law faculty, but they are also members of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund attorneys.
These lawyers, Leon Ransom, Charles Hamilton Houston, were well known in the white legal community for fighting against racial segregation.
The young ladies who challenged it did go on to court.
They were only charged with violation of a Jim Crow law. When those 8 students came out to the farm, came out here, they started in Washington, D.C. and sat wherever they wanted. And so they knew that it was gonna be different going back because of the laws in Virginia. But in their minds, this is an interstate bus because we're ending up in D.C.
And federal law said Jim Crow didn't apply. But they were found guilty as expected.
And that was a victory because that's what they felt like was gonna get the court case taken higher.
And they were also found guilty at the appeal, which they weren't surprised, and they actually were hopeful that they would because they wanted to move to a higher court.
Appeal to the Supreme Court if necessary, and the local people did not want it appealed to the Supreme Court.
And finally, it moved to the United States Supreme Court, Washington, D.C.
They're hoping to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Jim Crow laws on buses. And in the end, they were thwarted by a Commonwealth's attorney that was only a year in the job and probably feared having to see his case go to the Supreme Court. That's why the charges were dropped.
Once this story gets out, it's going to have a big impact because they'll see, oh, well, students did this. Or look at the role Howard University played in this.
The students were able to show the nonsense of this law to have segregated buses.
A year later, it was overturned, this Jim Crow bus law. In the 1980s, Carolyn Ware and Gardner Means donated their farm to Rosa Parks. Then it became Meadowlark Botanical Gardens.
Oh, look here. Oh my goodness, Carol Ware. They were going to go down in history as the beginning of this movement.
Kind of like to say it was one of the cracks in the wall of racial oppression and segregation.
We're going to march. We're going to stand together. We're going to sing together. We're going to stay together. We're going to move together.
It's a predecessor to some of the more well-known civil rights demonstrations and protests.
It fills me with joy and it fills me with pride to know that this is where my mother came, and not knowing that she and her friends were going to make history.
As a human being, I refused to give up this seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
Demonstrations for freedom and human dignity ever held in the United States.